Всім привіт! Вітаю вас на нашому вебінарі від компанії Green Country щодо найбільш вживаних помилок під час говоріння в іспиті IELTS. І сьогодні з вами буду я, Едіта. Я старша викладачка мережі шкіл Green Country School. Також я авторка навчальних матеріалів в нашій компанії. Маю досвід викладання англійської понад 4 років з різними віковими групами. А також завжди готова дізнаватися більше і більше про нові види вивчення англійської. І тому поділюсь з вами сьогодні. А також ми перейдемо на англійську мову, і тому я б хотіла, щоб ви також були дуже активними в нашому чатику, тому що я буду його читати, і щоб ми з вами активно комунікували в чаті. Тобто, якщо ви тут, будь ласка, напишіть щось в чаті, можливо, привіт, щоб ми бачили, що ви з нами, і що ви готові слухати цю цінну інформацію. Чекаю ваших емоджі або простого привіт в чатику. Отже, я гадаю, що ми можемо починати з вами. І давайте подивимось на нашу agenda. So, what we are going to talk about today? The first, we are going to talk about the structure of the IELTS speaking test. Then we'll cover the most frequent mistakes that candidates make and how to avoid them. Then we'll talk about the strategies that help to improve your fluency and coherence in terms of speaking test. Then we'll also talk about the ways to enhance your vocabulary for speaking to improve it in a way for you to pass the exam for the higher band. And also we would talk how to practice speaking part effectively. Yeah, that's the key word for us. So we will look through these 6 key areas that will help you to understand how the speaking part in IELTS work and how it actually happens. So you would come prepared and you wouldn't make some common mistakes that most of students do. And by the end of this webinar, you would know what examiners want from you and how to show your English knowledge in terms of taking IELTS speaking part. So, to start with, let's talk about the structure of the IELTS speaking test. And now, I would like to ask you in the chat, can you write the number of the parts that we have in speaking test? Only the number, please. Yes, I'm reading the chat, so you can share. Yes, share your answers, please. Okay. So we are going to have 3 parts in our test. Let's talk about them in details because each part has different goal and needs in terms of taking it, and also we would have different approaches. So in terms of the parts, the first part will include introduction and interview. So it's kind of a warm up for you. Yeah, you would be asked some introduction questions about yourself, about 2 different topics related to you and your life. And then there could be topics of work, your studies, your hometown or home, or what you're into. And you'll be asked from 3 to 4 questions on first topic, and then a further 3 to 4 questions on the second topic. And let us have a look at the example. And I would like you to read it and write in the chat. Is it a good example of answering or a bad example of answering for the part one? You can write good or bad to your mind. Okay. Some of you think that it's a bad example. Can you write your reasons in the chat, please? Why it's bad? Let's talk about it. The answer should be short. Yeah, it could be, but still, you cannot answer the question just with one sentence. Yeah, that wouldn't be detailed. So, in terms of this answer, this is a good answer for part one because there is a short answer for the first question and also there's more details about it. Yeah, so you add more information about you, yes, and about your surroundings. So, in terms of this part, you need to give fairly short answers, but not super short. Yeah, like you can just write I you can say, I like to go outside. That wouldn't be a good answer. Yeah, so you need to expand it. And some questions would be yes or no questions. Yeah, they are closed. For example, do you like your hometown? So never answer, yes, I do. Yeah, we expand it to make it more detailed. And please give direct answer and explain why you like your hometown, or maybe add an example of when you were in a hometown and what you liked the most. Yes, that's how we develop our first part in speaking test. And then let's go to the next part. Yeah, the second part. And this part will take you from 3 to 4 minutes. And it's called long turn. Why? Because you will be given a cue card with the question. Yeah, and there also would be 3 bullet points to help guide your answer. And you can either use them, but you don't have to. Yeah, it's not a must for you. And one more thing, you have 1 minute to prepare an answer. So that's additional time for you to maybe remember some synonyms or the phrases that you would like to use in your monologue. And you would have from 1 to 2 minutes to answer. What you should know, the examiner may ask you some rounding off questions. So if you have spoken for a full 2 minutes, they will not ask you like more questions. But if you have answered only for 1 minute, they may add some extra question. So what we need to remember about this part, there is an example for you. Look at the card. Yeah, so we have describe a tourist attraction you once visited. And then you have some bullet points. When you visited it, where is it situated, and who you went with. And then you have the main part and say what about it you like the most. So what you need to focus on, the first sentence and this sentence. Yeah, after bullet points. And there is an example how candidate answered. Please analyze this answer for 1 minute and write. Is this answer going to have a high mark or a lower mark from the examiner's view? Write in the chat. You can pay attention to underlined phrases and also phrases that are in orange color. They may help you to decide. Okay, thank you for your ideas. And basically, this answer will get a good mark. Why? At first, the person doesn't answer the question right away. The tourist attraction I visited was. No, the candidate starts from a story. Yeah. So once how it happened. And that's a very great strategy to start with. And after such a beginning, the candidate moves to the question itself. Also, we can see different synonymic phrases used that are underlined and high level vocabulary. Also, what is important is using some linking words like that's why, such as fortunately, and I would certainly recommend. These type of phrases will connect your speech and you wouldn't sound fake or unnatural. Yep, you would sound pretty realistic. Yeah. So, what we need to remember about the second part, you need to make a good use of 1 minute that you are given for preparation. So you can write down some phrases that you would like to use or some linking words and some numbers or proper names that you would use in your speech. Then please speak calmly, not too fast for examiner to catch the ideas. And should speak at least for 1 minute 30 seconds. And at home, you can practice even speaking for 2 minutes with a timer to know how long it takes you to answer such types of tasks. Let's go further. Part 3. Part 3 would last for from 4 to 5 minutes, and this is a discussion. You will be asked further questions connected to the main topic in part 2. So, if the topic in part 2 was about tourist destination, we will probably continue the topic of traveling or maybe some exploring some new places in part 3. And the examiner may also ask questions on some subtopics, yeah, that could be a bit related to the further one. What you need to remember, the questions may relate to your life, but they would also look more general. So in this part, you need to focus on general idea about the topic. Yeah, there would be like wider ideas, wider themes, and don't be surprised if the examiner interrupts you, because this is a common practice and it's normal for them to interrupt you if you're speaking too long or you switched the wrong direction. So they would help you to come back and to continue talking about the question itself. Okay, so here in part 3, we talk in more depth. You also need to do more than just give your opinion, yeah? So we generalize more. And you use some hypotheses, you also evaluate and you give some arguments on the given topic. And just relax and pay attention to some feelers or some linking words that will help you to connect your speech. Now, let's move to next thing. Here we have part 3, and there we have 4 questions that you can be given. Let's read, analyze them. You'll be given 1 minute to look through them. And after reading, can you tell me, please, does the person answers in general way? Let's write in the chat, general or in more personal way. So talks more about himself. So you write or general or personal. in the chat, please. Yes, you're right. There is more towards general ideas, but also the candidate adds something about personal stuff. Yeah, that's what we are going to focus on while passing the third part of a speaking test. So now we are going to focus on one more thing. Let's have a look. What is examiner looking for in the speaking test? Yeah, knowing what the examiner is looking for will help you to tick the points that will improve your score, and you would avoid wasting time on things that examiner doesn't care about. So let's look at this chart. Let's discuss what the examiner doesn't care about. How many answers you have memorized, how many big, fancy, high-level words you know, how many different grammar structures or tenses you know, or about British or American accent. No, they wouldn't focus on such things. The main thing for them is to understand how well you can communicate through spoken English. So, can you please write in the chat what do you think the examiner does care about? Please share your ideas. While you're writing, I would share what I have, and then you can add your personal stuff. Yeah. So the examiner will want to see how well you can communicate your opinions and information on everyday topics and some common experiences. And to do that, you will need to answer a range of questions. Also, you need to speak at the range of a given topic. Yes, so you need to use appropriate language due to the topic. Then you organize your ideas coherently, yeah, so you connect them, and they're not just like random ideas that you got in the process of thinking. Then, how you can express and justify your opinion and analyze and speculate about the issues that will be given in the card. That's it. Yeah, the examiners want to know how you can communicate. Yes, and the examiner will always encourage you to keep speaking. They wouldn't want you just, to get stuck and to stop talking. No. And I see that you have written how you understand the topic. Yes, wonderful. And how you introduce your thoughts. And of course, confidence. Yeah, confidence really matters in terms of speaking because it's your face card and how you behave. And let us talk about the most frequent mistake that candidates make. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them, and it's not a problem if you make mistakes. Of course, we all are humans, we're not robots, so we will make mistakes. And examiners, they don't judge you for that. And now I would like you to write in the chat, what do you think are the biggest mistakes students make in IELTS speaking? To your mind. You can have some time to write in the chat. Stressing out. Yeah, I guess it's one of the most common things. We cannot call it a mistake. Yeah, it's just a state of feeling, but yeah, it can disturb you and have influence on your result. Mhm. Okay, when students give a full answer and answer in a short way. Exactly. Different types of answer that are needed in different parts. Grammar mistakes. Yes, you're right. Also possible. Wonderful. Let's look at more mistakes that I've gathered for you and let's talk about them in details. So, the first one would be memorized answers. So you can look at the answer 1. That is not correct. If we analyze it, yeah, of course, we have high level words, myriad, contributing, fondness, primarily, broaden, horizons. Sounds amazing and too academic for speaking part. We can simplify it and we can say, I always loved reading, especially novels that make me think or see the world differently. So, what means memorized? Many candidates memorize perfect sounding answers, and the examiner notices immediately because they sound unnatural. Yeah, the first one can be a bit robotic. Yeah, like you have it on the paper note and you can read it. So IELTS isn't testing how fancy you sound; it's testing your real communication skills. Then short answers. Yeah, so we have a question. What kind of holidays do you prefer? And we can say, I like beach holidays. So the examiner would think, oh, you lack some vocabulary. In that way, we need to expand it and it give more details, as we can see in the second variant. And the person also added about more activities, yeah? I also enjoy outdoor sports like snorkeling or volleyball. So, as we see, short answers would sound less fluent, and you need to show how you can develop your ideas, not just answer the question and that's it, and then we move on. Then, let's have a look at this part. I would like you to answer the question. Which answer gets a higher score, A or B? Can you write in the chat, please? And you can write the reason. Yeah, write your answers. Okay, exactly. You've answered B, and I'm on the same point with you because, of course, in the first one, we answered the question. Yeah, we're great people in that. But in the second case, we mentioned the type of food we like, the country, then the cuisine. Yeah, we mentioned some different food that we also fancy and how you feel when you're eating this food. So examiner would be astonished by your answer and left speechless in this case. Let's move on. Speaking of topic. So if, for example, you were asked, how can governments encourage people to use public transport? And you can start. Public transport is very important in every country. Many people don't like buses because they are crowded. Did I answer the question? Not really. We start with answering right away. Yeah, government could invest in cleaner, more reliable transport systems and offer discounts during rush hours. So we also focus on some problems that we have. And that would make public transport more appealing. So we need to answer the question directly. And if you answer in the first variant, the examiner marks this as poor coherence, so you have poor understanding of the topic. The next one would be too many fillers. When you start answering with, well, it's like kind of when people like they want to travel, but also yeah, I know what you experience now. You thought that, oh, maybe I'm feeling bad. But that's how can people, they can use feelers a lot. Of course, you can feel not really confident in the moment of speaking, but you may use some phrases that can help you save some time. For example, that's a tricky question. I guess it depends. Sometimes people travel for work, but others just want a break from your routine. So using some phrases saved you a few seconds to think for your next step. And now we will look at the ways. So when we use too many fillers, yeah, so fillers, these are these words like, like. So can you please write in the chat what phrases we can use instead of fillers that can save some time for us? We've used already, that's a tricky question. What else can we use in the moment of speech? Yeah, we can use for example. Great. Such an interesting question. Exactly. Okay, however, moreover, yeah, these are great phrases to link your ideas, but we also have more of them. You mentioned this, the first one. We're gonna say, let me think about that, or let me see. You can also say, give me a second, please. Examiner wouldn't mind it, actually. And you can say, I need a minute to gather my thoughts. It's not a crime to use that, students. Just keep it in mind. Then mistake about intonation and unclear pronunciation. You can say, I like my job, it's interesting. I work in an office. One examiner would listen to you. He or she would think that you don't want to be there and you just want to go out as soon as possible. So we emphasize intonation and pronunciation. We say, I really like my job. It's quite interesting because I get to meet new clients every day. Yes, so in this tempo, the examiner would be engaged in conversation and would ask you more questions to help you to move on. And when you stress the keywords in the sentence, the words that are blue in the second variant, you vary your tone and that shows your confidence. Yes, your gestures and also the tone of voice that you are using. Let's talk about grammar inconsistency. You mentioned it before. If we say, if I will have time, I go to the gym more often. Yeah, conditionals, they're used often, but here it's wrongly. Yeah. We will say, if I had more time, I would go to the gym more often. So even advanced learners, they mix tenses under pressure. And the examiner notices, yes, this accuracy and range. So even though you made a mistake, you can quickly correct yourself and move on. In terms of limited vocabulary, if you repeat one word again and again, it would be considered as limited vocabulary. And if you keep repeating some basic words, your answers would sound flat and very, very simple. Look at this example. I think my city is good. The people are good and the food is good. Everything is good. Yeah, so here we can use some synonyms. I think my city is vibrant. People are friendly and open-minded, and the food is delicious and diverse. The vocabulary range is much more fascinating, and you answered the question too. The next one is sounding too academic. Remember that writing, that's about being academic, yeah, language. And speaking is about real communication. So, of course, you can use some phrases to connect your speech, but it's not a great idea to start in conclusion. I firmly believe that technology has both merits and demerits. These are great phrases for your writing part too, but not the speaking. You may use overall. I think technology has changed our lives a lot, mostly in positive ways. So don't use firstly, secondly, in conclusion. It's better to use more natural linking. To start with, all in all, actually, yeah, or I guess. So let's talk, why do learners make these mistakes and how to avoid them. That's our key part. The first and foremost would be lack of real speaking practice. As we all live maybe in Ukrainian speaking, yeah, surroundings, or maybe if you're abroad, you may not communicate to people for that often. They Most students spend their preparation time reading, listening, memorizing some answers or maybe vocabulary, but you forget to speak actually. So when they enter the exam room, they are shocked that they need to speak to someone. The person will listen to you and will give you some point, yeah, and it can create you some panic. That's why. What do we need to look at? You need to speak in English every day. If it's just to yourself, you can use Mirror or just your friends, and you can send them some voice messages. Why not? You can record yourself, reflect. You can listen to what you have said and improve it next time. Or you can even join some speaking clubs or groups or find a study buddy. That would be the best decision for you to practice on that. And remember that you can't become fluent by reading, you become fluent by speaking. The next point to be made would be fear of making mistakes. I think this is one of the biggest barriers that learners experience, and many students they try to avoid mistakes so much that they end up speaking very slowly, using only simple words or giving one sentence answers, but with no mistakes. I guess it's better to make a mistake using some harder grammar structure, but you have tried your best, and examiner have seen it that you know this grammar and you can use it in your speech. So, in terms of tips, they don't expect perfection. Yeah, they expect just speech. Occasional mistakes are fine. Yeah, we have natural communication. And if you make a mistake, just correct yourself. Look, I have been studying English for 2 years. The sorry will take you like 1 second, but examiner just wouldn't remember that you corrected yourself. And focus on expressing ideas clearly, but not perfectly. That's not your key point here. And remember that confidence sounds better than perfection. Then we move to the third point. It would be lack of time management. For example, in part two, students often don't manage the time well. You have only 2 minutes to talk on the topic, and they either stop after 30 seconds or they talk too long and they lose focus and they move to the other direction. So, you need to practice exactly 1 or 2 minutes using a timer. Yeah, the timer would be your best friend in terms of preparation. Use the structure. Introduce something, mention main points, one example, and summarize. And examiner will stop you when time is up, so you don't need to panic or just to follow, I don't know, the timer in the room itself. Examiners will do everything on their own. And 2 minutes of clear structure beats 2 minutes of random thoughts. So it's up to you to have, yeah, the strategy how to cope with time management, and we build this strategy practicing individually. Then we can over rely on memorized phrases. For example, you memorized long model answers, yeah, from cue cards or from already written examples or some fancy phrases from YouTube videos or textbooks. They are great, yeah, the phrases itself. But the problem is the examiner knows like these templates, and if they see that you follow the memorized answer, it would sound so unnatural. So it's better for you to have a few phrases in your active vocabulary, and you will use these phrases while delivering the speech. And you would know how to connect them with your ideas because you've practiced at home. And you need to learn some useful expressions, but not full answers. Yeah, that's what the main point is. Then you should personalize every point with your own experience because you're talking about yourself, yeah, in part one, for example, and also in part two you can also mention your experience. Then you can replace memorized connectors with natural ones. Yeah, and these mistakes, they are not signs of like not to be able to memorize something or just to use the words in the correct order. Yeah, it would just show that you were preparing only some information that you think would be used, yeah, but you were not preparing the skill of communicating to someone. That's why personal beats perfect every time. That's what you need to pay attention to. And talking about all these signs that we discussed here, all four of them, they are just signs of limited strategy. When you know how to prepare, you can easily fix them. Yeah, and you can easily follow the strategies that you already know. And you would be a confident communicator in front of the examiner. In terms of speaking test, we have general criteria for it. Yeah, the first criteria is fluency and coherence. It's how clear and how structured is your speech, and how you connect your sentences, how you extend your answers, and also how you speak smoothly and continuously. Also, we'll talk about lexical resource. It's how good is your vocabulary. Yeah. It's also important to use a wide range of vocabulary, discuss different topics freely, and using appropriate words. If you talk about technology topic, you cannot use the words from the medicine topic. Yes, it also would be checked. And you should know how to speak formally and semi-formally in these situations with examiners. Then we talk about pronunciation, how you naturally sound. It's not about the accent, it's how you pronounce the words and how you deliver your speech, if it's understandable or not understandable, and how you use intonations. And of course, grammatical range and accuracy. It's how you can use the grammar and how you can avoid grammatical mistakes and how you use more advanced grammatical structures, maybe some passive voice or maybe direct speech or different tenses or maybe conditionals. Yeah, it shows off your grammar knowledge. Now, we are focusing on fluency and coherence because I think they're the most and foremost in terms of speaking and grading your speaking. At first, I would want you to share what can you use to improve your fluency and coherence in the process of studying. Maybe some sources or some life hacks. Can you share in the chat, please? Someone mentioned watching series in English. Yeah, that's a very great way. And one of the most successful, I would say. Listening to interviews. Amazing. There you can hear native speakers, yeah, and how they sound, and you can even repeat the phrases after them. And reading books. Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to share more strategies with you. So in IELTS speaking, two key things examiners listen for are fluency and how naturally and smoothly you speak. And coherence, yeah? So I would like you to have a look at these two definitions and write where we have fluency and where we have coherence. So you can write in the chat one, mhm, two, mhm. So you write or fluency or coherence. You can write maybe letter F or C. It's up to you. So one is, yeah, I see your answers already. So let us see. The first one is fluency, and you are right. And the second one is the coherence. And now let us focus on the ways that we can ensure the smooth and understandable speech. And here we have some hints for you to use. In terms of fluency, you need to speak without overthinking grammar. It's better for you to talk smoothly, but not using like higher level grammar in every sentence. You may use it in two, three sentences, it would be totally fine. Use fillers naturally. We discussed them previously, and practice 2-minute monologues on your own using your speaker or just maybe sending voice messages. You can shadow native speakers. When you watch something, you can repeat after them, and you need to follow their intonation and pronunciation patterns. And in terms of recording yourself, don't be shy to listen to your own voice. It will definitely help you. In terms of coherence, you need to organize your ideas logically. Yeah, try to follow sentence by sentence using some connectors, as we have the example. Then structure, yeah, intro, details, your opinion, and then we have closure. You can also paraphrase and expand your answers and link your ideas clearly between questions for them not to sound odd or completely new. So now we are going to mention ways to enhance vocabulary for speaking. In terms of that, we can focus on topic-based vocabulary. For example, we have topic work or studies, yeah? And instead of answering, I study English, you can say, I'm majoring in English philology. It's quite demanding. Yeah, you talk about the subject, but I enjoy analyzing literature and improving my communication skills. That's the answer that the examiner is waiting for. Yeah, and we added details and some personal touch. Let's have a look at the topics that you may have on your IELTS. They're here on the right part of the screen. While you're reading, I would tell you how you need to practice. You can choose one topic per week, for example, environment. You make a mini word bank, for example, 10, 15 useful words and collocations, and practice using them in sentences or some mock answers that you can easily find on IELTS website. And you talk only about environment and use the vocabulary in speech. Then, when we talk about enhancing vocabulary, we can learn collocations but not single words. Native speakers, they don't speak in individual words, they speak in chunks. What does it mean? Learning common word partnerships help you sound fluent. For example, we have make a decision, make an effort, make progress. Yeah. We can talk about take responsibility, take a break. Yeah. These are set phrases that cannot be changed. So you cannot say make part in. Yeah. Only take part in. Do homework, do exercise, or have an argument or have fun. So collocation, this is your key to success, not just one single word, like decision. Yeah, we learn how to connect it. Then you can also learn word families. They help you express the same idea in different grammatical forms. Pay attention to that. Our root is decide, and we can make a noun, decision, a verb, to decide, adjective, decisive, and even adverb, decisively. And here you have even more examples of word families. So instead of knowing one word, you know already five, just by exploring more. And also, you can create personal examples. The best way to make vocabulary stick, yeah, to connect it to your life. So you don't only learn the word stressful. No, you think, okay, what recently happened that made you feel stressful? And you can make a sentence. My last semester at university was incredibly stressful because I had to finish several projects at the same time. In this context, you remember it better because you already experienced it, so it's easier for you to remember this word in the context. So every time you learn the new word, ask yourself, how does this word connect to me, to my life? So personal examples, they make vocabulary unforgettable. And one more thing, read and listen with purpose. Because passive exposure is great when you just watch, yeah, or you just listen, but you must notice how words are used. When you read or listen in English, look for natural expressions. For example, while watching a YouTube video or a TED Talk, you can write 5 useful phrases and try to use them in your next speaking practice. And you may also use some sources. Yeah, for example, you may find the phrase depends on in different contexts and learn it in the sentence itself. Mhm. And you can also jot down, yeah, the expressions and make sure that you use them in the context. One more thing, you need to review and recycle regularly. What does it mean? Vocabulary disappears fast if you don't reuse it. Yeah, you may feel like this fish in the picture. To keep your vocabulary active, yes, you need to review your words every few days. You may create flashcards in Quizlet on or Anki cards. You may also review 5 old words before learning new ones. Yeah, so you cannot move to new words, not repeating the old ones. They would stay in past, yeah, and you will just move on to a new chapter. And use these words in a short speaking task. You can talk for 30 seconds using 3 new words. Yeah, so you create 3 sentences using these words. And in context, they would stay with you forever. And how to practice speaking part effectively. So here's a simple step-by-step plan for you to succeed in IELTS speaking test. We have a speaking success system. The first one, you try. Take a question and try to answer. You can do this with any question that might appear on exam. Just give your spontaneous answer, not prepared. And if you can record your answer, then listen back. You will see what you can and what you cannot say. Maybe I should have used conditional there, or I shouldn't use this vocabulary, I should use this synonym. And you will improve your knowledge gaps. The second one you should discover. Watch or listen to some proficient native speaker answering the question. It may be the video or a podcast. If you have maybe a question about technologies, yeah, that are developed. You may find the video on YouTube about this topic, and you can follow the ideas of the person that is more experienced. And this will help you to discover natural spoken English. Yep. Then we would talk about practice. Practice repeating the chunks. Yes, you can use them in different ways, in different contexts, and it may include repeating, saying the opposite, making some true phrases, or you can use some other activities. And you need to practice answering the question step by step. Yes. And also we have to build something, yeah? So you need to memorize not the whole answer, but memorize the phrases that can be used. And it also helps you to build flexibility. And you'll be more confident during the test because you have improved your overall level of spoken English, but not just level of memorized 30 phrases. Yes? So, what I want you to pay attention to. Practicing speaking effectively is not about learning some phrases, yeah, by heart. No, it's about your fluency, um, how you can show yourself in communication. You can also try mock interviews. You can simulate the test with a friend or a teacher. If you have a friend who is also preparing, you can have like, okay, now you'll answer this question. Your friend answers and then you answer, so you can listen to each other. It can reduce anxiety. You can use some AI tools and it can help you manage your timing. Yeah. You can use some simple questions from books or from websites. Record yourself and you'll have a model answer. Recording yourself is also very important to identify grammar and pronunciation mistakes. So you heard that, I pronounced the word the wrong way. You can find the correct stress, and then next time you wouldn't make the same mistake. Yeah, we'll learn on our own mistakes. And it will help you to avoid repetition of some simple words. Yes. So you can record answers on all parts of speaking test, make notes, and after re-record the same question, but in a different way. Yeah. After analyzing, you'll see the great difference after that. Peer practice is also about interaction. Yeah, it helps you learn some new expressions and how to deal with the person in front of you. Yeah, because you will be in front of the examiner. And daily mini speaking habits. Describe your day in English or talk to yourself in front of a mirror. It's not something out of the world. I think it's totally fine to practice just talking to yourself. Why not? Yeah. And you can summarize a YouTube video, for example, or maybe a news story. Anything that you can reflect on would be a great practice for you. And remember, always focus on progress, but not perfection. Yeah, we remember perfection is not our goal. So, in terms of that, we can talk about the preparation for IELTS with Green Country because we are here to help you with that. And I'll switch to Ukrainian now. Щодо підготовки з нами, ви отримаєте викладачів, які є досвідченими і які знають правильні стратегії для досягнення мети. Також буде заняття в групах або індивідуальні, і ви зможете обрати цей формат, який вам підходить найкраще. Або з вашими однолітками, або з вчителем на один. А також буде персоналізований підхід до кожного студента. Тобто всі ваші питання будуть вислуховуватись, а також підпорядковуватись до ваших потреб. Тому ви можете зареєструватися на курс. Після цього вебінару вам надається знижка мінус 10% протягом доби. То ви можете сміло користуватися, або навіть ви можете сканувати цей QR-код, і ви зайдете в IELTS-бот, який вам розповість про все, що вас цікавить. А також я готова до ваших питань, які у вас є наразі. Можете писати в чаті, і ми їх обговоримо з вами одразу. Чекаю на ваші питання. Мгм. Скільки я бачу, їх поки немає. Отже, якщо у вас виникнуть питання, то ви сміло можете питати їх в нашого бота. І я вам дуже вдячна за увагу сьогодні. Я надіюсь, що вам було цікаво дізнатись детальніше про частину говоріння в іспиті IELTS. Всім дякую за увагу, гарного вам вечора і до зустрічі!